All right, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis. Another off-season episode today. We got some headlines for you. Got a couple of headlines that I'll probably ramble through and get this thing to about an hour, but we're trying to, get in, get out real quickly, and go watch this national championship in the college game. I didn't keep up in the regular season for shit with anyone outside of Mississippi State, but I'll tell you what, man, this March Madness, I've been locked in. I'll tell you what, I've been watching all the rounds, been keeping up with everything that's going on. Zach Edey's a damn monster. I'll tell you what, though, I have neglected to reveal this on the podcast. I made brief allusion to it at the start of the tournament. I think at the Sweet 16, I made a brief allusion to it as well, but didn't want to jinx it. But you know what? National championship's going to be done by the time y'all listen to this, so might as well reveal it here. Your boy has got a fairly sizable future, the one that I referred to a couple weeks back, on the UConn Huskies to win the whole damn thing. Got it at plus 400 before the tournament. They were the odds-on favorite to win it, which I was thinking, okay, let's go. You're going to give me plus 400 on the UConn Huskies. Lo and behold, they are in the national championship. So, may the best team win. Let's just hope that best team is the UConn Huskies for your boys' monetary incentive. And with that, based on that intro, you will know whether I am feeling bad today or feeling a little bit heavier in the pocket, if you will. So fingers crossed for that. Not really a whole lot of use in doing a breakdown of the game itself, a preview, because by the time you listen to this, it's already going to be over. So with that, fingers crossed. Hopefully I'm not unhappy today, but if I am, it is what it is. Life is full of unhappiness and pain. You guys know what I'm saying. Either way, I got some headlines for you. Try and get through them pretty quick. There's a good amount of stuff to sink our teeth into today. But try and get you out of here in a reasonable amount of time. A lot of contract news. One ginormous trade, and then we're going to end this thing off with a shocker in college hoops as far as the coaching carousel goes. I'm sure if you followed any bit of news whatsoever, you already know what that is, but that's for later in the episode. So with that, I'm going to take a nice swig of this carbonated caffeinated beverage. I need to come up with a better way to say that because the double ED next to each other on the words doesn't make me feel good. Just doesn't roll off the tongue. So, I'll brainstorm that. In the meantime, I'm gonna take a quick swig of this, and we're just going to get right into it, man. I'm busy day at work, but boy, oh boy, I'm coming off with a good amount of energy. Figure might as well I just compound that with a little bit of caffeine as well. So we're going to get this going. Man, I'll tell you what, no free ads, but Coca-Cola makes one hell of a damn product, man. I've been drinking that Coca-Cola spiced. My eyes are turning totally blue. I'm seeing visions of galactic jihad. Feels pretty prescient to me. I don't know. It's making me feel good. Kind of want a lot of it. I kind of want to keep drinking it. But I'll tell you what, it's making me feel good. Giving me lots of good visions to look forward to in the future. But hey, let's get into some headlines. First and foremost, if I can pull this damn thing back up here, didn't really miss anything last week, not that I know of, so we'll just keep it moving from there. Right off the bat, blockbuster trade in the NFL. I am very late to this because it happened directly after I put out the episode last week, if I'm not mistaken, but I'll be the last person to talk about it. Kind of out of the blue, this one. Though there were obviously some rumblings with this player and the particular team they were on up until last week, but the Bills traded wide receiver Stefon Diggs to the Houston Texans for a 2020... They traded Stefon Diggs, a 6th-round pick in 2024, and a 5th-rounder in 2025 to the Houston Texans in exchange for a 2025 2nd-round pick that they just recently acquired from the Vikings. So basically, they paid nothing. They got 2 picks and a brand spanking new number 1 wide receiver in the room. Also, Stefon Diggs' contract was restructured following the trade, wiped out the final 3 years of the deal. This upcoming season will be the last year on his current deal, and then he is off to free agency. So it's a put up or shut up year for Stefon Diggs. It's a put up or shut up year for the Texans, though we've talked about this before. They got like a 3-year window before they really have to start paying CJ Stroud. Even if they do agree to a contract extension, he'll still have that final year of his rookie deal on the books. So maybe you'll have a signing bonus that kind of takes away some cap space in there that you'll have to prorate out throughout the course of that entire contract, the new contract. But for the next 3 years, they're going to be paying under market value for a top 10 QB, a guy that could elevate himself into the top 5, that being CJ Stroud at quarterback. The Texans have pushed all of their chips to the center of the table, and I love this. I absolutely love it. This is exactly what you want a team to do. Obviously, you got to get a little bit lucky. You don't just get a great quarterback out of the blue. A lot of times, I mean, look at the damn Jets. They've been trying to find a franchise quarterback for, I don't know, my entire life. I mean, they even got Mark Sanchez in the building, paid him the money, but anyone watching the game, and no disrespect to Mark Sanchez, he's a fantastic guy, does a good job in the booth calling games and stuff like that. I like Mark Sanchez. I think he's a good dude. I also, conversely, don't think he's a very good quarterback, and that's what the Jets have been dealing with. And ever since then, it's been even worse than Mark Sanchez. So like that was the high point. And then before that, I guess they had like Chad Pennington in there or something along those lines. Like that, it could be a whole lot worse, is what I'm trying to say. The Texans really hit it out of the park. They got at the top of the draft. They didn't get the number 1 overall pick, though. Even if they did get the number 1 overall pick, I have a sneaking suspicion they probably would have taken C.J. Stroud anyways. They were just, lucky enough that the Panthers did a Panthers thing and took Bryce Young number 1 overall. And this is not just me. This is not just me, rewriting history. I understood why the Panthers took him number 1 overall, but I maintained that entire time. If it were me, C.J. Stroud would have been the number 1 overall pick in last year's draft. Just continuing a trend of me being an absolute draft genius. You may remember I tabbed Tariq Woolen as my favorite physical freak coming out of the combine. What does he do his rookie year? He gets like 6 or 7 interceptions. Last year, we can forget about that one. That's no problem there. But going into last year, I had Devon Achane as my favorite player coming out of the draft in the 2023 season. All he did was average 8 or 9 yards a carry in that Miami offense. I think I might have even specifically said Devon Achane in Miami's offense would be just pure unadulterated sex, and that's exactly what it was. It's still going to be splitting time with Raheem Mostert, but an absolute monster. And of course, if you're picking up on the trends here, I mean, I'm all money. I'm all money right now. So I mean, Johnny Wilson. I mean, Xavier. Oh my goodness, Xavier Worthy. Almost said Xavier Weaver. I think he's definitely not a football player in this draft. But just saying, bodes well. You should probably draft one of those players. And if you draft Johnny Wilson, move him to tight end. I'm telling you, he's going to be an absolute star if you move him to tight end. All that is besides the point. I delineated quite substantially to pat my own self on the back there. But I am excited that the Houston Texans, and I kind of said it whenever they hired DeMeco Ryans last year, and it was hopeful because this was, coming off of 3 years of tanking, just abject, terrible football, not even trying to win. I said when they hired DeMeco Ryans, I hope they do right by him, and I hope they actually try to win. And I'll be damned, man. They're at number 2. They take C.J. Stroud. They trade back up to number 3. They take Will Anderson. Both of those guys are cornerstones in their individual sides of the football. And in this offseason, I go into it saying this is the most important offseason that Nick Caserio has had as the Texans GM. And lo and behold, he absolutely realized that. He went into it, spent big in free agency, got a lot of players on the defensive side, brings in Stefon Diggs now. You got the Neil Hunter rushing opposite of Will Anderson on that defense. The Texans are loading up for a Super Bowl run. Make no mistake about it. They have absolutely put themselves in a position where if you just hit a couple of those draft picks, and they're already, even without the draft notwithstanding, they have a team that is going to be a playoff team and could very easily compete for the AFC title. You have to go through the Chiefs that is what it is. It's the same problem that everyone else in the AFC has. But if you just hit on a couple draft picks, they are right up there at the top right now. I mean, you've got a guy that's ascending at quarterback, had the best rookie season that we've ever seen from a quarterback. And then going into a second year, you get him a legitimate number one receiver in Stefon Diggs. Now, that's got to have some personality management there. DeMeco Ryans going to have to, do some smoothing over of egos to make sure that Stefon Diggs isn't tweeting passive-aggressive shit after week 3. But all of that, if you can keep it all in place, if you can keep it on the rails, if you can keep Stefon Diggs involved in the offense, there's no reason to think that this Texans team can't come out here and absolutely ball out, make a deep playoff run, and vie for a Super Bowl. And if they don't this year, like I said, you got 2 more years under, salary-controlled football here for your starting quarterback before you really have to start paying him, that you can really just go all in free agency and make some runs here going forward. I mean, it is the ideal situation that they've found themselves in. There's a reason why the San Francisco 49ers have been so awesome the last couple of years. They found Brock Purdy, and even more so on the salary control level for that. They were paying, the 49ers paid him less than $1 million. The league basically doubled Brock Purdy's salary with player incentives over the course of the last season. Even with that, it all ends up at like $1.5 million. That's before taxes. We all know that the California taxes don't have to belabor that point, but that's a big reason why they've been so successful as they have been. No reason to think that the Texans can't do the exact same thing. I mean, I'm not saying that DeMeco Ryans is Kyle Shanahan here. I'm not even saying Bobby Slowick is Kyle Shanahan here. I think obviously you saw at the end of last season and in the playoffs in specific, there were times where you could see Bobby Slowick was a young, inexperienced play caller. He's only going to get better, though. Mike McDaniel, this past offseason, I had major criticisms of his play calling in the first year that he was in Miami. What's he do the next year? He comes out, addresses his deficiencies. He goes into year 2, absolutely balls out with the team that he has there in Miami. Tough sledding for him this year, but that's besides the point. What I'm trying to say here is the Texans have absolutely put themselves in a position where they should win the AFC South. Make no mistake about it. If they don't win the AFC South, that would be a shock to me. And then beyond that, they should vie for a deep playoff run. It'll be more advantageous, obviously, the more games they win in the regular season. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I am just really over the moon, very impressed with what Nick Caserio has done. A lot of guys go into that tank mode, and once it's time to turn around and start picking up players and winning games, they just simply can't do it. Nick Caserio was not one of those guys. And especially with everything that was going on with Preacher Man in the owner's ear, I always forget his name. I always want to say he's David Duke. That is not the guy that was there. I don't know old buddy's political affiliations. All I know is there is a preacher by the name of it's gonna bother me. I have to look it up. It's unimportant. It's unimportant. It's just something you should probably know. Houston Texans preacher. All right. Jack Easterby. That was the guy. Jack Easterby. He started as the team chaplain, got in the owner's ear, had some personnel power whenever Nick Caserio first started. Then, through all of that, end up pushing Jack Easterby out, end up building a winner this past season in Houston to weather all of that storm with an owner that, by a lot of accounts, Cal McNair is an absolute, he is kind of a dipshit. That's kind of the running sort of thoughts on Cal McNair, but he lets the football people do their thing, and that's the beauty of a football team. If you just hire the right people and let them do their thing, you can just sit back, be an absolute dipshit, do absolutely nothing, and still make hundreds of millions of dollars off that asset every single year. So that is also the reason why his daddy entrusted the football team to him and left the big business to his brothers that actually have, some degree of brains in their skulls. Man, it really feels like I'm piling on Cal McNair here. I mean, hey, just look at David Tepper. It could be a whole lot worse, man. I think the one thing that owners always tend to overlook when they're going into football is that you can't run it like every other business that you've built up over time. Cal McNair, for better or for worse, never built up a business. So he just watched his dad and said, okay, I'm just going to hands off the wheel, hope I hire the right people, and then go from there. And lo and behold, this worked out for him. But I am over the moon impressed with what Nick Caserio has done as the GM for the Houston Texans. Earned every bit of the money that he has made. And even that the coaches that they hired and I think kind of did dirty, like David Culley and then Lovie Smith, both those guys were towards the end of their careers, and they got to a point where maybe they weren't going to get another head coaching job. They hire them, and then basically you could say they did them dirty, sending them off basically into retirement, making them almost untouchable after that. But especially with Lovie Smith, he 1 year of work and you send him off into retirement with a big check. Kind of same thing with David Culley. Could be a whole lot worse. Could be a whole hell of a lot worse than what Nick Caserio set them up with. So even those guys you could say they screwed to a certain extent, really just gave him a golden parachute into retirement if they so choose. I think David Culley might actually still be coaching, but Lovie Smith for sure just rode off into retirement on that big old paycheck. So even though I find tanking to be unethical and not very tasteful, there is, a best practices way to do it. And I think Nick Caserio did as good of a job as anyone has ever done. Maybe even better just because, got a sprinkle of luck in there with getting C.J. Stroud there at number 2. That is, again, very impressed with what Nick Caserio has done. From the Bills' perspective, you've offloaded basically the entire core outside of Josh Allen that you had last year, especially in the wide receiving core. I believe Khalil Shakir is coming in as their number 1 wide receiver next year. They're missing a lot of guys in the back end now. They got some work to do on the outside at safety, linebacker. I mean, basically you name it, and they need players there. It is not an exaggeration to say, and especially on the offensive side with the wide receivers, it seems like they're going the KC route where, you got a great quarterback. You can't afford to pay a whole lot of positions because you're paying your great quarterback like a great quarterback, not exactly in a Houston Texans sort of situation anymore. So, like the Kansas City Chiefs, they traded away Tyreek Hill, and then they went in the draft, got some, value-priced free agents. You bring in Curtis Samuel now if you're the Buffalo Bills. That's one of those lower-priced free agents. You have got, if you are Brandon Beane, you absolutely need to hit these draft picks. You need to nail this draft. This is the most important draft of Brandon Beane's entire career. This could really hinge whether Sean McDermott stays around, whether Brandon Beane himself stays around. This is a pivot moment. You can either start regressing as a football team, or you can nail this draft and you can, set yourself up going forward with some really good players on salary-controlled rookie contracts. Again, one of two ways this thing can go. I mean, you can find a couple players in there, kind of hit a middle ground, if you will. Brandon Beane needs to nail this draft, though, because you can't just get a couple, a few good players here and there in this draft. You need to get a war chest of assets in this draft for your football team. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Brandon Beane does over there. It's not like you're in a terrible situation when you got a quarterback like Josh Allen in the room. You got a solid defensive play caller with Sean McDermott. He does appear to be going into next season planning to call the plays, being the defensive coordinator once again. He did a good job last season, so we would expect him to continue doing that. You just need players. You need good young players. Brandon Beane, frankly, has not been very reliable at doing that in the draft over the last several years, outside of Josh Allen and Tre'Davious White, like those types of players. He's going to have the best draft of his entire career as the Buffalo Bills GM if he wants to continue to stay in this championship window. Because as the roster is constructed right now, you still got the big bad wolf out there in Patrick Mahomes. The team you just traded Stefon Diggs to, the Houston Texans, I would say has top to bottom a better roster than the Buffalo Bills. I'm not even quite sure that the Buffalo Bills have the best roster in their own division. So there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. They're probably going to have to hit on some late free agency period, sort of free agent pickups too, a la what the Ravens have done. I mean, basically every year it feels like, but certainly with Jadeveon Clowney and Kyle Van Noy last season. Just re-signed with the Ravens, by the way. Congrats to Kyle Van Noy. But yeah, it's going to take a few things to hit. You need to nail this draft, though, if you're a Brandon Beane. It's an absolute imperative that you nail this draft. And like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing if they do it. I am skeptical that they will. I am, however, hopeful that they do because, when there's more great teams in the NFL, it's simply more fun week to week. I think everyone can agree on that. But big trade by the Houston Texans to pick up Stefon Diggs. Monumental shift of power. Interesting that they traded Stefon Diggs within the conference. That kind of speaks to what they may think of Stefon Diggs as a player. He's still got something left in the tank as far as I'm concerned, though. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to the impact on both of those teams going forward. Let me take another quick drink here. Got to rambling on that one, boys and girls. My goodness. Whew, excuse me. That being said, got some quicker headlines. A lot of contract stuff here. So, first and foremost, Eagles signed their Pro Bowl left tackle Jordan Mailata to a 3-year, $66 million contract extension. $48 million of that guaranteed. So big time payday for the giant of a man that is protecting the blind side of Jalen Hurts there. Much needed stability with the retirement of Jason Kelce. Basically, that kind of locks in. Obviously, Lane Johnson was already there. Now you lock up Mailata. Still got Landon Dickerson there. And questions at, the center, other guard position. There was some holes they have to fill in the draft, but if there's one thing that the Rams have taught us, you can pick up some mid-round linemen and do pretty well with that. I've kind of coming out of the combine, just based on that one stat, I can't remember what the time was in the 3-cone drill, but it's basically like all of the offensive linemen below that time played started 80% of their games or something, played like a really high percentage of the snaps. And the one guy that absolutely knocked it all out of the park, another undersized center, Bertolini, I think, the center out of Wisconsin. I would like them to take him. I don't know if they're going to go with the center in the first round or what they're going to do. I don't think. I don't even know if Bertolini is his name, but the center from Wisconsin, who really just knocked the combine out of the park, another undersized offensive lineman. I think he's going to be really good for someone somewhere down the line, especially in the modern era where speed, quickness, athleticism is paramount at all levels of the field. I'd like to see them pick him up, but Jordan Mailata, really good guy to keep around. I just stating the obvious there, a giant of a human being. Like 6'8", 6'9", 380, moves like a ballerina, just a physical freak. Former rugby player that actually worked out in the NFL. You love to see it. Love to see guys get paid. Big extension signing for the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, the Panthers may have fumbled the bag with Brian Burns, leading to the trade to the New York Giants. For much less than what the Rams offered him, 2 first-round picks a few years ago that somehow they did not accept that trade even though they traded him later on. That is besides the point, though. They did not make the same mistake with defensive tackle Derek Brown. They signed him to a 4-year deal for $96 million, and then he's right at the top of the defensive tackle market as far as average annual value. I think Chris Jones is kind of in a league of his own when it comes to annual value there. Then you get Christian Wilkins, and I believe Derek Brown is slotted in right below him. I think right there alongside Justin Madubuike as far as average annual value for defensive tackles. He's been a stud there for the Panthers, one of the lone bright spots. Defensively, they lost a lot of really solid, underrated players like Jeremy Chin, Frankie Luvu in this past free agency cycle. Derek Brown was one of those guys that they needed to keep around, quite frankly. He's been really good for them on an otherwise just terrible, god-awful team. So Big time payday for Derek Brown. He will be with the Panthers for the foreseeable future. Again, you know what? Sometimes a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. The Panthers, hey, there you go, man. You made a good signing. So congratulations. Hopefully the interior of that offensive line that you just newly rebuilt doesn't let Bryce Young get absolutely fused with the turf on any given week. That's my main thing. And once again, I've said it about a million times in this podcast, but poor Bryce Young, man. Poor Bryce Young. The Chiefs extended defensive lineman Mike Dana for 3 years, $24 million. Not a big name, but a big contributor to keep around. Especially, losing some pieces on the outside. Mike Dana stepped up in a big way last season on the Super Bowl run. Really solid player. Again, not a huge name. Was kind of more of a rotational guy than anything else, but earned his money here, man. I mean, especially with the way that Chris Jones kind of has that gravity on the interior. Guys like Mike Dana are going to get some really good one-on-one opportunities for pass rush and stuff like that. And I would contend the last 2 Super Bowls, really, especially this last one, that defense was really, they wouldn't have won the Super Bowl without him. And I'm not saying they won the Super Bowl because it's not mutually exclusive that you wouldn't have won it without Patrick Mahomes, and you also wouldn't have won it with how great the defense had been. This is a good guy to keep around in Mike Dana, though. I expect him, to keep doing what he's doing, basically. Just be a really solid contributor in there and, create some havoc with Steve Spagnuolo along the way. So I'm expecting that. Chiefs will be right at the top of the AFC once again, especially after I have a sneaking suspicion they're going to draft like 2 to 4 wide receivers in the draft. They're going to draft at least 1 or 2. I would expect even more than that, though. I fully expect a wholesale change in the lineup as far as the wide receiver core is concerned. Also Rashee Rice was in the Lamborghini in that street race that caused a big old accident. He's cooperating with the authorities now, so probably get a fine, get a slap on the wrist, maybe get like a fine from the NFL, maybe a 1-game suspension if they find it to be abhorrent enough. It doesn't seem like he was inebriated while driving, and even if he was, it wasn't, it wasn't able to be proven. Now, I will say he was carrying like 10 grams of weed in his car, which like, that's like, it's not a small amount of weed. Don't get me wrong. It's not an amount saying you're moving weight. It's just an amount saying, okay, I'm living good. I'm well stocked for the most part. If you were in the weed smoking community. However, in Texas, that amount of weed in the car is a felony. So that is something to keep an eye on. I'd imagine there's going to be a settlement on that. Maybe a hefty fine. We'll see if there's jail time. That I forgot about the weed, actually. That one might actually precipitate a suspension here, but I don't anticipate it being a long-term suspension. I don't anticipate if he does get jail time, probably not a long-term stint in jail if I had to guess. Understanding the situation, he's cooperating with authorities, all that sort of stuff. I would imagine by the standards there of the law, it'll probably be a slap on the wrist, but you still have Rashee Rice in the building. He's probably not a guy you want to put at your number 1 wide receiver. And that is all to say, once again, I think they're going to go hard in the draft here. They got Marquise Hollywood Brown there on a 1-year deal, who I think is going to have a hell of a season. I would pick him up in fantasy if you haven't already. I mean, it's April. What am I even talking about? If you've had a fantasy draft already, stop it. Get some help, man. It is way too early to be doing fantasy drafts, but that's one guy I keep my eyes on. He'll probably be there in like the mid rounds or something like that. It's amazing what happens when you go into the building with Patrick Mahomes and you step in and you're basically the number 1 wide receiver off the bat. But yeah, I would anticipate those Chiefs are going to be a player once again in the postseason. So long as they have Patrick Mahomes, they're going to be right there knocking on the door basically every year. Vying for AFC championships, vying for Super Bowls beyond that. It is what it is. We are in the Patrick Mahomes era of the NFL. Once again, I'll say, you're going to come over to my side eventually. When the GOAT is in the building, Not a whole lot that you can do when you are another team in the AFC. You're just a notch on his legacy there that he's building to chase Tom Brady down the line. So with that, we'll keep it moving from there. Speaking of the Patriots, referencing Tom Brady there, the Patriots ditched the transition tag for Kyle Duggar, and they signed him to a 4-year, $58 million extension. $32.5 million of that is guaranteed, a max value of $66 million if he does in fact cure cancer or whatever else that happens to be. Good incentives on there though. Not sneezing at that. Great piece for them to lock up long term though. He was a guy that really was part of the glue that held that defense together. And I've said it before. I mean, the Patriots on offense, god awful, terrible. One of the worst offensive personnel groups in the entire NFL. I mean, basically everyone outside of Hunter Henry could just get the hell out of town as far as I'm concerned. No one was good on that offense at all last year. I don't care if it was Kyle Shanahan himself calling that offense, they still would have been god-awful. Or at the very best, middle of the pack if you had an offensive genius like Kyle Shanahan in there. Defensively, though, I mean, Christian Gonzalez was playing out of his mind before he went out last year. I believe they still have Matt Judon in the building, though he's coming off an injury, so we'll see what kind of juice he has left in the tank. They got a lot of really good, solid young players, like Christian Barmore has been there for seems like a million years at this point. They got good linebackers, good secondary, good safeties, really just good all around. I am very intrigued to see what this Patriots team does, because honestly, if they nail this draft, I think they could shock some people. Well, obviously, if they nail this draft and Gerard Mayo shows up as advertised, they could really make some waves this year, be a little bit better than people expected. I'm not saying they're going to be Super Bowl contenders. Maybe they vie for a playoff spot, though, if things go chaotic in the AFC. Like 7-10, probably my estimate right now. They could push for 8-9, 9-8 very easily if they hit on this quarterback and they hit on the head coach and Gerard Mayo. The ceiling is the roof, man, in the words of Michael Jordan. So yeah, again, Kyle Duggar, really good player to keep around, keeping that in mind. A staple to this really good defense over the last several years. And honestly, I don't think the Patriots are as far off as people may be led to believe. It's just the offense is such a disaster. It all kind of hinges on what they can do to improve over the course of this past offseason here. I'm looking forward to seeing, I'm looking forward to seeing all of it because I love football, but I'm really looking forward to seeing the offensive progression because I do think the defense is going to show up. Just how far does the offense progress to a point where, maybe you can win some of these games, generate a little bit more offense. Especially with, worst case scenario, maybe you trade back in the draft. There's talk of the Vikings moving up to that number 3 spot to take Drake May. Even if you move back, you still got Jacoby Brissett locked up for 2 years, and he's a solid starter. I mean, he's not going to be wowing you all the time with, great plays and whatnot, but he's a solid middle-of-the-pack sort of starter. A guy that can, right the ship on offense, a guy that stepped into shitty situations before and played very, very well. So Patriots aren't in a bad spot right now. They're not nearly as bad as I think a lot of people would expect them to be coming off a 3-14 season, 4-13, whatever the hell it was this last season. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to, just football in general, quite frankly. Holy shit, we were already at the last headline, man. I told you, it's only a few headlines, so yep, this is going to be a short one today, but wanted to talk about this one real quick. This one dropped as I was trying to go to sleep last night, and it did not help. I did not get enough sleep last night, and I am somehow still amped, absolutely yoked up with energy right now. The Coca-Cola helps. But as I was falling asleep last night, as many of you were already asleep because you're good employees going into work on a Monday morning, in a shocking and utterly hilarious turn of events, Kentucky head coach John Calipari is jumping ship from the Kentucky Wildcats to join the Arkansas Razorbacks. Arkansas's former coach, Eric Musselman, just left to take the USC job, as you may have heard over the last week or so. I don't really traffic in a whole lot of basketball news, so I didn't report that one, but he was gone. They were doing a quick little coaching search there. I thought that they might steal my head coach, Chris Jans. now I'm pleasantly surprised to see this turn of events, man. Because for now, I'm keeping my head coach in Chris Jans. Though, if you follow the dominoes, it seems like Nate Oates, just logically thinking, Nate Oates being the head basketball coach of Alabama, done a very good job at Alabama. Murder notwithstanding, he didn't murder anybody, but go look it up. Brandon Miller gun. That's probably all you have to Google, and you'll find out what happened there. That notwithstanding, done a really good job at Alabama, and it seems like that would be the most logical choice for the next head coach for Kentucky. So if Kentucky hires Nate Oates, now the Alabama job is open. I mean, if Chris Jans was interviewing for the Arkansas job, it stands to reason he'd interview for the Bama job. I understand he's a rental at this point. I have no illusions in thinking otherwise. But for now, my coach is safe. And just in general, not the most hilarious thing that could have happened with the John Calipari situation. I think the most hilarious thing, Louisville started this offseason with a vacancy at head coach. They ended up hiring somebody. I don't remember who they hired, but they hired somebody or other. It would have been the most hilarious thing possible if Coach Cal jumped ship from Kentucky, went to Louisville. That would have been awesome. That would have been the funniest thing in the whole damn world. But leaving Kentucky to, let's call it what it is, a downgrade job to Arkansas within the SEC still, to where you're still going to be playing Kentucky every single year. That's still pretty funny, man. That's still pretty funny. It's awesome to see. Me and I think every other SEC fan is hoping that Kentucky absolutely blows it with their next head coaching hire. But hey, it's exciting times to be in the SEC, man. And I would assume John Calipari is going to do what John Calipari does at Arkansas, get, top 5 recruiting classes, bring in a whole bunch of talent, and then just tell them, okay, figure it out, boys. I brought you in. It's your job to actually win the games. But boy, oh boy, is this fun. This is great drama. He's going to go into Lexington next year. I'm sure that's not going to be hostile at all. I'm sure that the Kentucky faithful is just going to give him a warm welcome after jumping ship. But, to be fair, they wanted him out of town anyways. That being said, you can't tell me there's not going to be a bit of animosity there from him jumping ship. I assume there's going to be some comments coming out along the way of how he was unhappy there. All that sort of stuff. The drama will build. Make no mistake about it. The drama will build, and I am all the way here for it. How did this materialize, though, is a funny kind of thing to look at. Basically, Arkansas has, a couple big boosters. I think Jerry Jones rumored to be in there. I've, talking to a coworker and just kind of thinking about it. Jerry Jones doesn't really put money into things that don't make him money back. So I would assume he's donated a good amount to Arkansas just because he loves the university. I don't know that he's going to be, ponying up for a new head coach in John Calipari. The one person I know did pony up, and I do not have the guy's name. All I know is he is the heir to the Tyson's Food chicken empire. He really wanted Coach John Calipari. He's very close with Coach John Calipari, close with that entire family, actually. So he was ready to pony up the big bucks to hire John Calipari. And as of right now, there are still no details as far as what the contract was, what are the numbers on it. I'm telling you, it's going to be huge money, though. It's going to be absolutely huge money. Y'all can thank the heir to the Tyson Foods empire for that, because he decided, okay, I'm going to buy a great new head coach, and we're going to upgrade from our last head coach. Ooh, excuse me. At least from a recruiting standpoint. I love everything about this. The only thing that would make me love it more is if John Calipari left the conference and both Kentucky and Arkansas hired bad head coaches so that, Mississippi State could have a better opportunity to win more games next year. But I'll tell you what, man, this is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful, and I have no illusions of the fact that, if John Calipari didn't take this job, it feels like Chris Jans was probably going to go to Arkansas. So I'm happy with the way this all ended up. It's going to be hilarious, fantastic drama going forward here, and I'm looking forward to all of it. And looking forward to it is the catchphrase of the day. I'll tell you what, but yeah, that's pretty much all, folks. This might be the shortest episode I've ever done since I started doing this podcast by myself. But yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed it. Thanks for tuning in. If you did enjoy, subscribe wherever you're listening to it. You know, Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon. Just go on that place. You know, hit the subscribe button, share with a friend, help me grow this thing a little bit, rate 5 stars. It all helps. Everything I just listed helps. You can do one or all of those things. I prefer you do all of them, but you can do one and still be fine in my book, quite frankly. But yeah, outside of that, we do episodes every Tuesday on this channel. I don't know why I said Wednesday. It's not accurate at all. But yeah, if you want to contact the show, if you want to follow me first and foremost, you know, go to the old Twitter, you know, formerly known as Twitter. Now it's called X. Link is down in the description for it. I am Caleb V UA on Twitter. That is the @ a little bit easier to find than spelling my fucked up Eastern Bloc name. I will grant all of you that. But yeah, if you want to go on Twitter, follow me there. That's pretty much the only place I'm active because I'm bad at promotion. It is what it is. But yeah, if you want to contact the show, either shoot me a DM there on Twitter. I will definitely be most responsive on Twitter. DMs are open, so slide right in. Do what you got to do. Just, you know, don't be too mean to me. Or do, whatever. All the engagement is fun, I suppose. But yeah, if you don't want to go that route, also got the email down in the description. It's unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com. Again, down in the description if you want to go that route. So, yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, Unqualified Analysis. As always, I have got next to no clue what I'm talking about because sometimes I'm just a big old dumb dipshit. That being said, one thing I learned this week, and I'll tell you what, this is one thing that helped me out in the trivia whenever it came up over at my local bar trivia. Negative 40 degrees is the same temperature in Fahrenheit and Celsius. You know, dazzle your friends with that one. It's absolutely true. You can Google it yourself, and you'll sound like the smartest person in the entire room. So, with that, you're welcome. Have a good day. Hope you enjoyed the national championship. Hope I am a couple $100 richer. Fingers crossed. See y'all next Tuesday.